Before I start, I just wanted to say this is the machine we're working on. If you notice, I've opened up like every panel I can to try and gain light in there, access in there, to help find our leak. The other thing is you'll probably want to pick up a set of these. You can find them at Harbor Freight or any like general like farm store. They're short, kind of hydraulic angled wrenches for like hydraulic fittings and stuff. This helps me a ton and has saved me a million times. Conventional wrenches are thicker, they can't fit in the same places, and they don't have the angle, so this is just something to keep in mind as well. What's up, guys? It's another wintry day. Fortunately, we're able to work in a shop today, so it's not too cold out, but just want to do a quick how-to of how to find hydraulic leaks on your skid steer or equipment. Just some basic things that I look for right off the bat, and kind of a run through of how to find your leak. So this is a customer's Scat Track. I don't work on these too frequently. They're kind of oddball units, but I already repaired the leak. I just figured I'd make a video on like my diagnostic thinking and kind of what I do. But as you can tell, there's hydraulic fluid all over underneath and all over the machine. It can be really hard and really intimidating to try and find the leak. So first step is if you have access to a power washer, it's much easier to find leaks if you can take the belly pans off, get into the engine where the hydraulic pump and everything is, and spray everything off. It's going to be a lot easier for you. I realize not everyone has access to that, and even when we're working out on customers' yards and everything, we don't just have readily access to a power washer or one that's easy to hook up. So we don't do this too often. Also, spraying down the pump with like brake clean or some kind of solvent and just cleaning it up is the first step to helping you find your leak. The next thing is just to be able to gain access. So most pumps and hydraulic lines sit under the seat somehow. If you're lucky, you have a skid steer or piece of equipment that can lift the cab, and there's usually like 2 bolts in the front and it will tilt. However, oftentimes that's not the case. As with this unit, it doesn't have a tilt feature on it, so you actually have to lift the cab off if you want to access a ton of the room and space under there, like if you were doing a pump or something. But as you can see, right under this cab's where all the lines are and everything. So on this machine, instead of having the cab feature, it's got these panels you can pull off, and essentially you're able to see the pump, most of the lines, everything that you need to find, I would say, like 90% of your leaks. Again, see all this fluid build up in the bottom. So a customer usually doesn't notice a leak for a really long time because that fluid gets built up in the belly pan and then it starts weeping out of the drip hole. So first things first is power wash it if you can. Second thing would be gain access by removing the panels or lifting the cab. And the third thing, before you check for leaks, make sure it has hydraulic fluid in the tank. That's a super common problem, and you're not going to be able to find leaks if it's not actually leaking fluid because it's out of fluid. Also, running a machine without fluid can burn up pumps really quick, cause a lot of issues, debris, intrusion, everything like that. So that's the first 3 steps before you even start looking for a leak. So the fourth thing is just spray it down and run the machine and check for leaks. So I found the most common leaks I run into are physical hoses leaking, like the rubber rubbed a hole in it and it's leaking, or like these fittings. So most of these fittings have an O-ring behind them, and over time the O-ring goes bad, or these fittings actually just from vibration get loose and just leak. They're probably the easiest things to repair on these machines. If you have an actual physical like hose leaking, they can kind of be a pain in the butt, but that's what I would check for first, is all your fittings, all your hoses, all your O-rings. And that was actually the issue on this machine. So this nut right here was actually just hand tight. So likely due to vibration, it just got loose and was just dripping down into the pan, dripping all over all these hoses and making it a real pain in the butt to try and find where the leak is. But we got pretty fortunate because, again, through the passenger side kind of I guess view plate or whatever you want to call it, we were able to see the leak and repair it. So I removed this hose here, it's an 1.5 inch nut, it's a JIC fitting. Remove that, and when you do these, you don't want to just tighten up the nut because likely when you have pressure running through your hydraulic system, it might cut that seal, and if you just tighten it up, it's likely to leak again. So actually just remove the whole fitting, put a new O-ring in it, made sure everything looked good, tightened everything up properly, and then reinstalled the hose. So that's the best way to do it. For stuff like that, if you're like really in a pinch, you can just tighten up the nut and get through your day. But if you're trying to make a solid repair, it's better just to remove the fitting, inspect everything, make sure there's no damage, and then tighten everything back up. So the last tip I have for you guys is once you do make the repair, don't reinstall any covers or belly pins or anything like that until you verify the leak is repaired. Several times I've been doing jobs where I just lose track of time or I forget and just kind of hurry up and put things back together, and then I go to start it and it's leaking. So definitely don't put the side plates or anything on until you can verify the repair. Very common on these skid steers to have leaks like that. That's just a few things really quick that you kind of want to look for when you're checking for hydraulic leaks, and kind of the steps that I take to diagnose everything. So now that we repaired this, we are going to run the machine, make sure it's not leaking anymore, and clean everything up, make sure it's good to go. So the other thing is too, if this is like for a customer repair, I always try and get a video of the leak to see, you know, just to double confirm, you know, what the issue is and that it was actually leaking. And that way, when I do make a repair, we can verify that it was previously leaking and now it's no longer leaking. Of course, if this is your own equipment or your own machines, you don't have to go through that. But these are just a few steps that I take on kind of every piece of equipment when diagnosing a hydraulic leak, and hope this helps you out.